It's summertime for us, but wintertime in the Chi as we return for Showtime and Lena Waithe's hit series, The Chi, in its 6th season. This episode, like most of the starting episodes each season, gives us a crash course in what's going on in all of our favorite characters for one of the best ensemble shows that is currently out right now. In this episode, we get to see what's going on with Emmett and Smokey's, how his relationship is progressing with Kiesha. Will Douda ruin it all, and so much more. What's good, y'all? It's your good sis Erica Vane coming to you right here on Erica Vane TV with another The Chi video, as I mentioned, for the premiere episode of season 6. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on your bell notifications so you don't miss out on any of my The Chi content and conversations. In addition to these videos, I will also have the written reviews on ericavane.com for you to read, linked in the description box down below, so feel free to check out ericavane.com for all of the latest in your favorite television and film projects. Now, I do want to go ahead and apologize because I am posting this review late. It has taken me the first 3 episodes of this season to really find my footing and find where I want to be in reference to discussing the show with the series that is in its 6th season, and they are coming upon that illustrious 7th season, so hopefully they get renewed. You can find yourself in a place where things get stale, or if I'm being 100% honest, at the top of this season with this episode, after I watched, part of me felt like we were recycling a lot of storylines. Now, I'm glad that I waited 3 episodes before coming back to do this one because I don't think that that's where we're going. However, I want you to keep that in mind because that is what the framing I'm going to use for this episode breakdown. And with this episode breakdown, I am not going to factor in what I know in episodes 2 and 3. So without further ado, let's get into this breakdown. Before we jump into this video, I have to let you know that this video was created during the 2023 WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes. Without the labor of the writers and actors currently on strike, the series being covered here wouldn't exist. Through the duration of these strikes, my company and I stand in solidarity with both unions and are refusing paid opportunities presented by struck companies such as the 8 major Hollywood studios. Content created on Erica Vane platforms are independent of any struck company and not created in promotion of said company. Articles, videos, and audio posts are created in critique of the media in support of the artists who created it. It is important that you, the audience, know that these strikes are a result of corporate greed. The writers and actors have been victimized by major studios for quite some time, and the time is now to demand fair pay and working conditions, standardized practices across streaming business models, and other terms that will ensure the pipeline for new aspiring creatives remains open and viable for years to come. At this time, neither union is calling for a boycott of any television or film content. If you would like to support either or both unions, consider donating to strike funds, walking local picket lines, and using your social media platform to amplify messages delivered daily by union members and leaders. Links to official websites and more information can be found in the description box down below. Videos explaining both strikes and continual strike news can be found on Erica Vane TV. Now let's get into it. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than what I have previously done in breakdowns because I typically will talk about what's going on and really highlight the things that I loved and focus on the most and might leave some things out. But I want to be very clear and starting in season 6, I don't want to leave anything out. So I took some notes and I'm actually going to first start off by talking about things in 4 categories. The old storylines that I feel like are being recycled because I do feel like that is actually happening. The questions that I have leaving this episode, the things that I'm most excited about in reference to storylines, and then the storylines that I am the most indifferent about. So those 4 things will be broken down in this video, starting off with the old storylines. First and foremost, Kevin and Maisha versus Jake and Jemma. And honestly, it took me getting to episode 3, which I know I'm doing this breakdown trying to keep it contained to everything that we know in episode 1. But it took me to episode 3, which sent me to watch seasons 2 and 3 again to really realize that like Kevin and Maisha really happened first. Maisha and Papa might have been the bigger thing, the bigger deal, but Kevin and Maisha were technically like first loves, or at least Kevin was her first love. So now I'm a little bit more comfortable with them circling back to the whole Kevin and Maisha romance of it all. Now they are older, a little bit wiser, have some lived experiences, and kind of know exactly what they're feeling and can articulate what they're feeling. But I really struggled at the end of this episode with seeing Kevin and Maisha kiss, because it took me right back to Jake and Jemma, and then it feels like they're walking into a place of they're going to try to hide it. And I feel like we've already done this. Like we've already had the big blowout about the cheating and the you mess with my girl as my best friend and I still love her and I still care. Kevin went through a whole thing with Jake where he was still so into Jemma, even though he was like not treating her well. They were not on the same page at the same time, or the time that the cheating happened, but the cheating did happen. It was cheating. There was so much in disarray, but Kevin stuck to his guns of like, this principal and it's my girl. And for me, while Maisha and Papa aren't actually together, we get a moment in this episode before the kiss happens where Papa tells Maisha like, yo, you don't have no time for me, which tells me that Papa still wants to be with her, but Maisha's saying no. Maisha is saying like, yeah, I'm good on you, which is perfectly fine and her prerogative to do so. However, is this going to present a problem for Kevin if Papa is still into Maisha? Now, part of me feels like Papa's not going to be into her because he's so deeply into the older woman, which we'll talk about as well in this breakdown. I love how they frame this girl who's only 2 years older as the older woman. So maybe not, but it just felt very weird for me. When they literally started this kiss, I literally sighed audibly and was just like, oh no, not again. I'm over it. And with all fairness, because I am covering quite a bit of shows and quite a bit of YA shows, so that's young adult shows, I'm not going to lie and tell y'all that I wasn't taken back to another show that seems to have the friends pass each other around sexually and romantically, and I'm really just so overseeing it. However, we could see the makings of something really great with Kevin and Maisha because they have had a couple of years since the first interest was placed. They have been invested in each other as friends. They know each other very well and very deeply, which means that their romantic feelings could be really deep-seated as well. So it could work out this time. However, that was the first thing I was just like, this is an old storyline. Now, the second old storyline that I feel like is being recycled, and honestly the most important, because the next one really plays into this and the fourth one doesn't really matter as much, but this one is important, and it is the whole Emmett being invested in by Douda. And to me, it drew such strong parallels to when Douda invested in Brandon. And honestly, of course, stranger danger, red flags, all of the things, right? But how it is happening, I'm just like, I get that we have to keep Douda active, but he has so many tentacles. He's kind of like the octopus and he has his hand in so many things. I'm like, why does he also have to really go down this road with Emmett? And in this episode, they set us up for not only him to be investing in Emmett and like have a more hands-off approach, because I felt like with Brandon, I guess because they didn't have enough time after what took place and all of the things that happened to oust that actor who was playing Brandon from the series, maybe they didn't have enough time to develop it and they were going down this route, but it feels like Emmett's story is becoming what Brandon was supposed to be, and I don't know how I feel about it. First reactions, first thoughts is like, I don't want it, but then I also understand how it could serve Emmett's character well. Emmett is a character who has gone through a lot and like resting and relying too heavily on his mama, not being financially stable, too worried about sneakers and fucking all the time. And now he has like really grown into a man and taking responsibility, leading a family, holding down a home, financial and all of that. So he has had a lot of growth. And when I think about sandwiching him with Douda and the way they set him up in this particular episode for the rest of the season, I'm like, okay, this is uncharted territory for the Emmett character specifically, so I can see how this could actually stretch and pull him and also expose his weaknesses. There's so many moments in this episode where I want to be happy for Emmett getting a new car. I want to be happy for Emmett buying Tiff a new car. I want to be happy for Emmett looking as good as he looks in these suits. But then how he like seemingly in split second moments idolizes Douda, because it's either going from idolization to Douda emasculating him and like saying some weird stuff, and I'm just like, ugh. But like watching Emmett look at Douda with such enamor in his eyes in certain moments when he's not scared, it makes me look at Emmett differently. Like it makes me almost look at Emmett as like not less of a man, but for lack of better words, less of a man, because it's like, sir, you are solid on your own. You are dope on your own. And I think that's the one thing that Brandon probably as a character had over Emmett. Emmett desperately still needs so much validation. And that is going to be the thing that is going to set him up for his eventual downfall. And it's unfortunate that the number one source of validation that he is seeking and probably going to be most internalizing is going to be Douda. And I hate this for him because he is in a place where he gets validation from his mama. He gets validation from his daddy. He gets validation from his girl and his kids and his baby mama. So it's like you have all these people telling you you're doing great, but it looks like he's pedestalizing Douda, and it's going to be a thing where Douda's word is bond and Douda's word is the thing that rules over his life. And I just can't respect Emmett for that. I understand it. I understand being in that place. I understand how characters get there or how people get there, but I don't know if I can respect it. And then again, it just seems to be drawing such a very strong parallel to Brandon's storyline before the character was removed from the show. And then piggybacking off of the tie to Douda, I was seeing very strong parallels between Kiesha disliking Douda to Jerica disliking Douda. And this is probably also coming up for me because, again, I'm doing this review after I've gone back and rewatched episodes in season 2 and episodes in season 3 when I was looking for something completely different. And seeing Jerica again, seeing her response to initial investment and like how things were happening, even going back and watching the scenes where Brandon got arrested, Douda bailed him out, and then Jerica shows up. Like there was so much of like Kiesha's mannerisms when seeing Douda in this first episode that reminded me of Jerica so much. And I'm like, damn, this feels familiar. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. So I don't want to make it seem like this is a complete negative for the series, or at least for the premiere episode, because it's not. Recycling old storylines and giving them a fresh take or expanding upon them is not necessarily a bad thing. However, for me, with the episodes 1, typically in the Shy, being the like scene setting and the like reorienting us to the characters and letting us know where we're at, it kind of took away from it being in episode 1, because now I'm not only just allowing myself to fall into the Shy setting and get my foot in again, but now I'm being reminded or kind of having nostalgic feelings, but then not all the nostalgic feelings are good. And then it kind of puts me in a position of, as an audience member, of do I want to go ahead and rehash this? Did I love those storylines enough to want to see them again? And that's the like thoughts that's happening. And I think that that's where there's a little bit of like, okay, this could be a negative, because you're putting your audience members in a mindset that you might not necessarily want them to be in. But as you can tell, I'm still watching. And then the last storyline that I feel like is being recycled is just the parallels between Victor winning city council and Douda winning the mayoral race. And it's not like a direct one-to-one parallel, but it's really, really close. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know if I care, honestly, about Victor winning city council anymore. Like, I love the setup when Shaw was supporting him as a part of his team, and even though the lie was happening behind the scene with Tiara and Douda's ex-wife was too actively involved and all of these things was going on, all of that is not the case anymore. But I felt like it was more interesting then than it is now. Like, he winds up winning by the end of the episode, and that's great for him. But I'm also like, okay, so what's going to happen now? I don't know if I care. So those are the 4 old storylines that I feel like are being recycled. And again, it has yet to be seen if there's going to be for the best or hindrance to the show as a whole. Now, I do want to talk about the storylines that I am very, very, very excited about. One of which is a subplot at best, but I'm here for it because Papa is always going to give. And this whole Papa with the older woman storyline, for whatever reason, is doing something for me, okay? The fact that this is the older woman and she's only 2 years older, hilarious. But then also with her having a certain level of maturity, effective communication, and emotional intelligence to know not to cross that line with him being a minor. I love it. Is forcing them to like really have breaks on this thing, even though they both have interest in one another, and it's very clear they're able to take their time and get to know one another. Papa is always going to have an intentional conversation or ask specific questions that's going to be a little bit different, so I absolutely love that. And I like the legs that this storyline has. Like, I think that it can go so far, and specifically with discussing like the older woman thing, I think it's interesting to see that in this case there's an older woman, an older girl interested in a younger man, and she takes that into consideration. We're in a space right now in society where we're calling a lot of people to the carpet about grooming and about, you know, men engaging with younger women, and specifically doing so because they're malleable and all of this, like alpha male podcast out, right? Like all of the negative that come with it. And I think it's an interesting conversation that is going to be had alongside the like positioning this girl as the older woman and her being so intentional, so careful, so mindful to not groom him, to not manipulate him, to not sexually take advantage of him, and all of those things, because it's typically the opposite when it's the male in the driver's seat of the older position. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that storyline. Next storyline I'm excited about is Rob working with Douda, but being so skeptical. Rob as a character has been very subdued, low-key, and really built out and helped make, for me, Tiff's storyline more meaningful, more important, more impactful, because Tiff, I could take her or leave her, honestly. I ain't even gonna hold you. I could take her or leave her, but with the addition of Rob and how he navigates their relationship, how he navigates her personality, how he navigates her wins as well as misses has been very, very interesting to me. And in this season, we are getting to see more from his particular point of view, his slice of life, not just tied to Tiff. And he's always been a pretty low-key, laid-back type of dude, not with the rah-rah. And to see that played out across from Douda, like there's a very strong scene where he's going to go get his re-up. And there's a split second where they give us half of his face and then half of Douda's face. And it looks like they're about to go head-to-head. And I'm like, yo, I could totally imagine this even being like a boxing poster. And it's the enemies, it's the rivals, it's the arch nemesis for me. And it's so subtle. And it's so like nuanced, I think, in how it's visually as well as delivered within the dialogue. And I think that this is about to be the biggest confrontation of the season. And I love that they introduced it in such a like sleight of hand kind of way, if that makes sense. I'm very excited to see what life looks like for Rob navigating working under Douda. His uncle was killed, don't know why his uncle was killed or who killed his uncle, and then having to deal with the personality of Douda, because Douda, his problem as a narcissist, well, one, his problem is he's a narcissist, but he's like an extreme version of it. So things can't just be working well and going fine and he gonna be cool. Like, he's always gonna push the limits. He's gonna push people. He's going to trigger you. He's going to try to tap dance on your damn nerves. And I think even in the scene that I was just talking about, there's a level of like surveying that's happening on Douda's part so that he can try to figure out what's his end gonna be, so that he can be able to play on Rob's emotions and play on, you know, his potential anger or triggers or whatever. And that's going to be Douda's downfall. But again, I'm very excited to see how Rob is going to navigate this. Because while it's quiet at the start of this episode, I think that it's going to build up over the course of this 16 episode season, y'all. We're getting 16 episodes of the Showtime season. And it's going to wind up being, I think, one of the biggest plots to go down. And then another, I guess, nuanced, subtle, but very clear, direct, and poignant storyline for a particular character is Kiesha becoming a teacher, and I am very excited to see it. Seeing her be such a strong leader, not only being vocal and outgoing and empathetic when she goes on this interview and, you know, has to interact with a student who doesn't want to read in front of everybody and has to confront the teacher that she's shadowing, and is very honest and direct. I love that for her, but she's also very strong, and she's a leader in the home as well, coaching Emmett on like things that are will and will not work in their relationship, like being very honest when she's uncomfortable, when she's not unpleased, or when she is happy. And I think it's for me, and watching her and knowing what she has suffered from, knowing what she's been a victim to, I think that the easiest thing would be for somebody to completely lose their voice, lose their autonomy, and become a shell of themselves. And it's been really great, even in this just first episode, of seeing what the melded family looks like, because she's now living with Emmett. And, you know, they got a routine together and all of that. And like her just standing strong and taking command of not only her life, but the family that she wants. She's not compromising on anything. Like, she's just not afraid. And I love that for Kiesha. I love Kiesha being able to do life and whatever that looks like for her, and not be afraid to speak up for herself, not be afraid to advocate for her kids and her future students, like not being afraid to advocate for the relationship that she wants and how she wants to receive love. And when Emmett might be falling short, it's like I just inject it into my veins because I am enjoying it. So Kiesha becoming a teacher, but not only that, representing a very strong Black woman in the series and like holding her own is exciting storyline that I cannot get enough of. Now, with things that you are excited about, there are also things that you might not like, which I'm not going to say that I don't like these storylines, but I will say that I am indifferent on them. And those storylines are, in no particular order, y'all, Shad and Deja. Shacking up and him looking at photos of Tiara. You cheated on this woman. She has been a good woman to you. She has not been the tropey, like pull him up by his bootstraps, even though there's been a couple of like little orange or beige flags for her, right? Like, okay, cool, we get it, Rashad. But also, why are you pining after Tiara? Why are you pining after Tiara, smoking weed in this lady's house after she don't want smoke in her damn house, not paying not a bill? Getting pissed because you need to go smoke on the porch. If all you got to do all day is go smoke your ass on the porch, I don't want to hear it. She's not asking you for no money. She's not asking you to go get a job. She's literally trying to support you in the stage that you're in. She literally sees you for who you are and is trying to meet you where you're at, and that's still not good enough. And this is the part that chaps my ass, because there's so many cases, and this is not all cases, but there's so many cases where it does not matter how supportive, how open-minded, how loving, how pouring into him a woman is. A man might still find a reason to do some dumb shit. And that's what it feels like is about to happen when it comes to Shad and Deja. And I am indifferent about it because I don't want to see this. Honestly, is Deja perfect? No. Does she give a little bougie? Girl, you trying it sometimes. But she also makes sure that you are fed, you are housed, you are warm. She asks about your mental, how you feeling. She wants you to connect with your friend. Like, Shad, don't make me dislike you, bro. And that's what I'm feeling. So right now they're in an indifferent pile. Shad and Deja. We're going to see where their storyline goes, though. Next storyline I'm indifferent about. Jake. Jake as a character to me is interesting, but I wrote down specifically Jake's clothing line or business, because we get a moment of him and Jemma knows his inventory and is counting his money and he don't. And okay, cool. It just gave us a little story for them so we can know what they got going on. They are together, they're happy, they have gotten through the trauma that was losing a baby and emotions that come with that. Cool. As it stands right now, I am indifferent about Jake and Jemma. And specifically, if they're going to go further with this clothing line business thing. Marcus and Tiara. I am even more indifferent about Marcus and Tiara. In this little sex scene where Jemma got to listen to her daddy being called daddy by this lady. While it was hilarious, I'm just like, why are we doing this? Why are we here? Tiara, okay. So you couldn't be little Miss First Councilwoman. Now you going to try to be what? What does Marcus do exactly? Like, I'm very confused. What do you do, Tiara? Like, maybe that's the thing. Maybe I'm indifferent about it because I don't know what Tiara does besides be a trollop. That's all she's been given is trollop, y'all. So I'm just very perplexed, and I don't care. I'm also indifferent, going back to Emmett, about him turning a blind eye to Douda and low-key idolizing him. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. It's making me look at Emmett a little bit differently, but again, I don't hate it. The scene where Douda shoots that man for chewing too loud, and all Emmett can do is just stand there all shocked and appalled and hand Douda his coat. Emmett, baby, you're in danger. And I'm indifferent, I fear. And last but certainly not least, I am indifferent about Tracy and Douda, specifically why she can't move on from him. And this could be an Erica thing, y'all. So I'm very much so aware that there are certain characters that I just don't be vibing with. And I think Tracy might have been one. I didn't understand her falling in love with Douda, so I never really bought into it. So now that she can't get over him and she's trying to prioritize herself and spend time alone, and then he shows up at the house at the very end and puts that thing on her because she ain't really as strong as she thought she was when it comes to Douda, I'm just like, okay, girl. And then us watching the motivational Eartha Kitt clip on Instagram after talking about don't compromise and love, girl, you knew that. You been knew that. Like, can we make a pros and cons list? We already did that. I think we did that 2 seasons ago. Like, girl, be with the man or don't. Because what are we doing, Tracy? And also, maybe I'm indifferent because I also don't know why she's not with him. Like, he's a liar. You know that. You actually low-key fell in love with his lying ass. Like, you knew he was lying and you still fell in love with him. Like, I feel like that's part of the thing that you fell in love with, even though you don't want to admit it. Like, he's a gangster. You knew that too. Like, maybe I just need better explanation, or I need to go back and rewatch because I'm not understanding Tracy and her motives. So I really am indifferent to her feelings about a lot of stuff right now. Like, I don't care, girl. At all. Glad you got some good though, I guess. I don't know. Like, what? All right, and now after I've discussed all of that, and this video is getting a little bit too damn long, these are the questions that I have. Why the hell did Kevin move out? I know that he announced he wanted to be emancipated last season. He was struggling with Nina not believing that he wasn't selling drugs. He's making all this money from gaming. Cool. But he actually moves out, and we get to see him move into his apartment in this episode. But why? Because then you're going back home just to steal groceries and whatnot because your ass is really not ready to be on your own. You have absolutely no furniture. Kevin, what are you doing? But if I'm honest, I haven't really understood the Kevin character for the last 2 seasons. So at this point, it is what it is. I just have questions. Like, why did he actually move out? You're literally 1 year, I think, out of high school. Like, I think this is his senior year and he's about to leave. So it's like, you're literally almost to the finish line. Why are we moving out randomly in the middle of damn winter, or like halfway through? This is winter. You about to be done. Whatever, Kevin. I don't know that. I want to know, this is another question I have. What crimes do Douda not commit? Because this man is having cars boosted for him. He's moving weed. He got, like, he's laundering money through Pizza Shop. He running 63rd Street Mall. Like, sir, which crimes are off limits for you? Because at this point, part of me feels like it's getting a little bit convenient that Douda is the big bad criminal bad wolf, but he was able to take out the old OG last season so easily. And last season he was like step and fetch it to that man, but now all of a sudden he the head honcho, and I'm just like, is there anything that we're going to see him not do? Because I feel like too much is accessible to him. I need a clear understanding of his criminal enterprise. I get it. You find black men in the suit. You speak eloquently. You can move through different circles, but you also ruthless and a gangster. But like, what crimes don't you commit? Because I just don't understand what's the parameters that we're working in within his character. And at this point, I'm getting annoyed with, like, every time I turn around, he got a new criminal way to make money. And I just don't understand how he keeps a hold of all of it, I guess. So yeah, the question is, what crimes do Douda not commit? Anybody know that? Let me know in the comment section. Y'all can feel free to answer any of these questions that I have in the comment section if you feel like you have a better grasp on the answer. Okay, my next question is, how is Bakari balancing street life and nice guy life? Because you are running around here with Douda, but then you all over old girl because that's your girl at Kevin's little kickback housewoman, whatever, and you seem hella smitten. It's in those moments when he's with kids that you remember that he's a kid and he has such this youthful nature and he has this ease. Like when he's with his girl and when he's with Papa, it's like all good. But then when he's with Douda and he with Nuck, he's like gangster. And I'm just like, how is this little boy balancing it? I hope that this season we're going to get to see more of the inner workings of Bakari's mind, because I just need to know. I'm intrigued. And the last question I have is, how does Rob feel about all of this change? In this episode, we get to see not only the fallout of him having to take Douda on as the supplier because his uncle is gone, but also Emmett is like having his financial come up. He buys Tiff a car, and it looks like Rob is like questioning it, but like trying to play it cool, but then feeling away. We get a split second scene where we get to see them smashing in the car, and I'm like, why are we seeing that? Like, there's so many moments where we get cuts to like Rob and just his face, and you could tell that he's thinking something, but I want to know, like, how does he feel about all of these things that's happening? And I'm guessing that's something that they're going to roll out throughout the season as we get to know Rob a little bit more. The first episode clearly is not only an introduction back into the setting, the show, what's happening with the characters, but also an introduction to who the power players are going to be. And the fact that we were given so much time with Rob lets us know that he is going to have a storyline that is a little bit more expanded this season. But I do have a question of just like, how does Rob feel about all of this? Now, I did not anticipate this video being this long, and it's very much so unorthodox in how I structured it, but this is the best way I could get it out because it was taking me forever to do this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts on the first episode in the comment section down below. Overall, it was a decent entry into the next iteration, or next, I guess, journal entry into the saga of The Chi. It was a good season opener, letting us know what to expect. I would love to know what you thought in the comment section down below. I'm your good sis, Yolonda Talk TV with, and you need to go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and specifically turn on that bell so that you will be notified when I post a new video. I do also have the Chi playlist if you want to be notified specifically about the Chi videos as I drop new video breakdowns. Episode 2 breakdown is already up, and you can click right here to check that out, and I'm gonna see you there.